Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to another episode of B is for Build. In today's episode, we're back on the carbon fiber game. We're gonna try a different method. Our last method was a complete failure, so we're trying a totally different method this time. Today, we're gonna be working on the door. So we're gonna grab our door, we're gonna break it down, get all the components out of it, get the glass out of it, everything else like that. Then we're gonna move it over into the other booth. We're gonna create a mold of that outer door skin, and then we're gonna try and use a vacuuming process to lay a bunch of carbon fiber into our mold and then vacuum seal it down. And when we pop that thing out, we should have a new outer door skin made out of carbon fiber. At least that's the plan. We'll see how it goes. Stay tuned. Before we get started, I want to take a second out to thank our sponsor. Today's episode is sponsored by Turo. Turo is a really cool invention, one of the biggest game changers in the car rental scene ever. And what it is an application that allows you to borrow cars directly from their owners. People like you and me, you can borrow some really cool cars directly from the people that own them. So that means you can skip the lines at the rental counter, no more dealing with those people. No one likes dealing with those people anyways. And you can get a really good value for your buck because you can get the exact type of car that you're looking for. If you want something exotic or luxurious or economical, there's everything in every different variety. There are actually over 850 different makes and models on Turo available right now across 5,500 different cities and 300 airports across the US and Canada and more. So what that really means is you can get the exact car that you want when you want it. Turo's really amazing for car guys. So say you're like me, I'm flying out to Anaheim in a couple days to take Chelsea to Disneyland. Say we wanted a nice set of wheels. We wanted something like sporty and rear wheel drive. Look at the selection here I'm showing you on the screen. There's a bunch of these different cars, all rear wheel drive, all fun to drive, and they're under like $100 a day. You step it up a little bit more and you can get into the luxury rear wheel drive class. You can have a lot of fun by renting cars on Turo, and those are, I can promise you, a fraction of the price that you would get a cool rear wheel drive car from like a traditional rental service. And to add to the convenience, they even offer delivery. So Turo's available on the web and on iOS and Android as a mobile app. So guys, go check it out. Use the links in the description. Sign up using my code below, and first-time users will get a $25 discount at checkout using my code in the description below. So go check it out, guys. Huge thanks to Turo for sponsoring this episode. Now let's get down to work. So to create this skin, we're gonna make a mold of our existing door, and then we're gonna use that mold to create a piece of carbon fiber that looks exactly like it. So to do that, the main thing that's important with mold making is that, you know, all your edges gotta be exactly how you want them to show up in the mold, and all your negative space has to do the same. So spaces like this are very important to pay attention to, and the window line. So what Kyle's gonna go ahead and do now is flip this thing over and start to break it down and basically do a full disassembly so we can get all of the negatives, all of the things that are poking out from this door shell that kind of get in the way of just this raw piece. We got to get those all off. So it's mainly going to be this, and then the side mirror. That teardown of this door took a very long time, but we've got it. We got it all set up. We got the handle out of here, so you can see this is exactly what we need to emulate with carbon. And the hardest parts are gonna be getting these nice clean inlays, making sure the carbon follows the body line and dives in right there, you know? Dives in right there, and this edge right here. So the door's all broken down. This is what we want to copy, so we got to go ahead and get it all waxed up now. So we're going to be using our Partle paste, wax on, wax off 3 to 4 times so you get a really nice wax finish on this thing. All right, we got our door all waxed up. Now, this time around, you know, we're doing a different method, but we're also working in very close communication with Fiberglass, who creates all the materials that we're using on this. So we're following their directions to a T. So this is 2 coats of wax, wait an hour, 2 more coats of wax, wait an hour, and now we're going to do the PVA application. And their application is what they recommend is very similar to what I actually kind of found worked the best the last time. So first coat coat is gonna be a really, really light mist. Then we're gonna give that time to dry up. Then we're gonna come over with a medium coat and another medium coat. Now the big takeaway that we needed to remember from last time on the hood project too was to make sure to get these undersides really well. PVA is water soluble, so it literally comes off so easily that I'm not worried about getting it on anything here. That's just not a worry. You can just take it off immediately with a sponge and water. So I'm gonna go, you know, really nice and heavy to make sure that we, although, yeah, we don't want to damage the paint on this, right? But it's coming off, so it doesn't matter. But it's good practice for the future panels. So I'm gonna go ahead and apply that PVA right now. Remember in all the time lapse too, that when we're doing the waiting period, I cut that out. So it might look like I'm just going, well, that's, you know, that's waiting the time period in the middle. That's something to know on all paint jobs. Everything we do here at B is for Build. You know, you gotta wait between coats. We've got our layer of PVA on the panel now. You guys can kind of see through the time lapse. Like the first one makes it all kind of matte, and then the next two heavier ones make it all nice and glossy. A little piece of dust right there. So the next thing that we got to do is go ahead and tape off our edges and tape off the things that we don't want to have the mold have access to. So, you know, we're making a mold of this panel, right? But we also need to have an edge going around where we want our carbon fiber to stop, but also where we're going to make a surface for our vacuum bagging to kind of connect to. So we're going to tape off things like this from the inside, and then we're going to tape off this from the inside as well, and then we're going to run a nice line of tape all the way around the outside. Starting to look like what we want to make out of carbon fiber. So we've got our tape running around the outside, and we had a small mistake with the PVA. If you really stick your hand into it, the like sweat off of your hand will kind of, it's water soluble, will kind of go into it. So we had to respray an area, but we got full coverage. Once again, it's smooth enough, it'll be fine. We've got our areas taped off, and then anywhere where we're seeing a little bit of a gap, you're supposed to put, there's like a special wax that you can like manipulate with your fingers and put in there. We don't have that, so we use chapstick, which I don't think will be a problem for right now, and we'll work on getting that wax as we go on. You know, B is for Build. We do these things. We try and figure out ways to keep going. So now it's time to spray our tooling gel coat. So that's going to be this stuff right here. It's orange, so it looks fancy and cool. We're going to mix it up, and we're going to be spraying 3 layers, but giving each one some time to tack up. And we got to achieve the right millimeter of thickness. And the tooling gel coat is different than normal gel coat because it's a really, really hard surface. It's meant to be used for making molds like this, so you can use that mold over and over and over again. So tooling gel coat, 3 layers thick on this, and then the next step will be to back that up with fiberglass so it's nice and strong. Well, we had our first failure, but luckily it did not happen on the panel. It's kind of crazy. So I did my mixing up, which you guys saw, threw it in the gun, went to spray the gun, and nothing was really coming out of the gun. This stuff catalyzed, we're in hotter conditions than on the tech sheet, and the stuff catalyzed so fast. The hardener in here is crazy. You guys can see this cup is like warped. It melted the cup. It's so hot in here, I can't even hang on to it right there. It's really, really hot, and that's just from the catalyzation happening with the hardener mixing with the gel coat. So I underestimated my timing there, and we need to fix that. So we're gonna actually work on cooling down this room a little bit, and then I'm gonna mix it up and start working with it a lot faster this time, get it in the gun, and get it on the panel, hopefully, because I don't wanna have to clean out the gel coat gun again. That was miserable. Let's see if we can get it on the second try. Well, that application sure did not go as planned, but we got it on there. We made it work. So I don't know if it was just something to do with my gel coat gun or whatever. We cleaned it, we double checked it, it was operational, but we could not get this tooling gel coat to get through there. I don't know if maybe it's a little bit thicker than normal gel coat or what the deal was, but so we ended up brushing it on, and we got the desired thickness and everything's looking great. So you can see that we brushed it on, that covers the edges, and when we pop this off, the inside of our mold will be this orange color, and that's our really nice, really smooth surface that we're going to be working with on this mold. So that's fantastic. Now, we, this is tooling gel coat. It's nice and hard, but it's going to be kind of brittle and stuff like that. You need to reinforce it. So we're going to be reinforcing with fiberglass. The first layer that goes on is just a woven fiberglass cloth. It's exactly like carbon fiber, except it's fiberglass and it's a little bit thicker. We've got our woven fiberglass applied, and it's at the point now where the resin is tacky, so it's time to start applying our next layer. Now we're gonna just go ahead and do 3 more layers of this stuff. Now this is fiberglass matte, so it's a little bit different. It's like chop strand, and you can see it's kind of, it goes in all sorts of different directions, and this stuff's really good. It gets in crevices really well, and it also adds a lot of strength because everything go in a different direction, so it's pretty great. We're gonna do 3 layers of this on there, and that's gonna wrap up our mold. Alright guys, it is the next day, and so you can see that we did our chop strand mat. We did 2 layers on top of that. It's really, really thick stuff, so I'm pretty sure 2 layers of that is going to be fine. And it's the next day. We heated this thing, we heated the whole room overnight, and it's nice and hard. There's no gumminess to it, no tackiness to it, so I think it's ready to peel off. This is really, really exciting to me. If we have something that looks like, like the inverse of a door really well on that other side, then we will have successfully created our first mold. The nightmare scenario is going to be if that orange tooling gel coat breaks or shatters in some of the more complex angles, and then we wouldn't have a mold. But let's give it a try. Let's try and bust this thing off. So we're finding out that we made a bit of a mistake with the tooling gel coat as far as how far we let it kind of wrap over the part. I mean, if you look here, like, our corners are covered and other stuff. And this tooling gel coat dries up really, really, really hard. So to get the part out of the mold, it has to kind of bust the edges off. It's tiny little edges like that, it doesn't seem to be a problem, but as we're getting further down, they're kind of getting bigger, and I don't want to be breaking these parts of the mold. So I grabbed the Dremel tool, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to come around the edges like this, and I'm going to cut down to our panel so that the mold doesn't have to break to release off the panel, so we don't have any of that overlap, going over the reasonable expectation of what to let the panel release vertically. We did it, you guys. We made a great mold. I'm so excited. You can see, exactly, so this is all the edge of where the panel is gonna stop. This is basically where I'm gonna trim so we'll lay carbon in here, it'll overlap this a little bit, and then we'll be trimming right here on this line to make our, our outer skin for our door. It's perfectly nice and glossy. It's a great smooth finish. We have no air bubbles or anything in our crease, which is, that was kind of a worrisome part. Also the door handle, I was a little nervous about this, but it's a perfect mold of our door handle. So everything is really great as far as how that came out, and I'm really, really stoked on it. We got a great finish, exactly like how our door was finished. and it's fantastic. The only thing that I would change, you know, when we do our next mold is that I would have made this flange a little bit bigger, because, you know, we want our carbon to go into here and we need a little bit of overlap, and then obviously, and then we have our tape for our vacuum bagging and stuff like that. So we're kind of low on real estate to fit all that stuff in there, but that's one of those things that, you know, we're learning as we go. So it's time for the next steps. So the first thing we got to do is actually the first thing that we had to do on our door as well. We need to wax up the panel. So we got to wax this with our Partle paste really nicely, 3 coats of that, and then we got to spray our PVA on this thing so we have a nice, you know, release layer. Okay, so what I did was I came in and any of the spots that I was a little bit worried about, because maybe we had a crack or maybe we had a crevice that it seemed like maybe the resin would go in and around and do too many weird things, I went ahead and just covered those over with a little bit of Vaseline, since we still don't have that tooling wax that we need. And then we sprayed our PVA over this thing. So we got a nice, really thick coat of PVA on this thing. So we're ready. The first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna try and build up a little bit of resin in here. So we're gonna do 1 coat, very thin, about 2 mil of resin, and then we're gonna let that tack up, and then we can do our next layer of resin and our cloth. What that's gonna do is give us a little bit of depth, a little bit of extra resin on the outside. It's also, if we have any imperfections, gonna give me something to sand into before we do our clear coat. So right now, Kyle, we're gonna mix it up, and this is actually probably the most technical coat of resin that we're gonna do on here, because we have to keep it nice and even and thin. I gotta say, it really is really frustrating to have invested all this time and effort and then have these weird reactions happen when you get to this stage, but it is what it is. So the resin went on and it's acting somewhat hydrophobic to the panel. So you can see there's some voids here. It's very bizarre. I have no idea what's causing it. It's extremely frustrating, but we tried our best to get a nice thin coat across, and what my hope is that when we lay our mat down and then we infuse that with resin, it'll start to take in those voids and fill in those spots thoroughly. And then because we're going to also vacuum bag this thing, and the vacuum might help pull some resin into that area, but that's not what you want to see, man. Definitely not at this phase. That's a big bummer. So we're gonna keep going forward though and see what happens in the end. This is all a learning process. We're trying our best here, so we'll see how it goes. So the next thing that we're gonna do is now that this is tacking up, we're gonna go ahead and cut our. We're gonna lay our piece of carbon. This is gonna be our show carbon, so it's gonna be seen on the outside. So we're gonna try and run the weave pretty much along this line right here, and then we're gonna trim our sides, roll it in, and apply its resin. Alright guys, we got 4 layers of carbon fiber up in our mold here, all impregnated with resin. We actually accidentally went a little heavy with resin on the very last layer, which is kind of a bummer, but shouldn't be too big of a deal because we got some stuff that's meant to absorb that. So we're vacuum bagging this, which means we need to Well, we really got to make sure that we got a clean edge all the way around for our vacuum tape, and we got to work some magic here. So the first layer that goes down is peel ply. That's something that the resin can actually go through, and when you pull vacuum on it, and then that goes into the next layer, which I think is called the breather cloth, but it's a piece of cloth that actually absorbs the resin that comes through the peel ply, peels it out, or pulls that resin out of your material. If you have the perfect amount of carbon fiber and resin, you'll get the perfect strength. If you have too much resin, it'll be too brittle and it'll kind of want to break like glass. And then on the last layer, what we're going to have is the plastic, which is the bagging plastic. So we'll tape around our edges and put on the bagging plastic. So we're going to try and get this all set up right now. Well guys, it's a new day. The hustle and bustle at the end there, we destroyed the paint booth. So, with the vacuum bagging, you know, you want to get everything in there, get your layers in there and get the bag on pretty quickly so the resin is still not hardened up and the vacuum can kind of do its job to suck it in. So we were kind of working as fast as we could. We accidentally got the wrong type of bagging material, which is one issue. And the other issue is, for one reason or another, we didn't build a big enough flange on there to really get a good seal on our bag. So when we pulled vacuum on it, it held vacuum, but it didn't hold it for very long. That's why the next morning when we're showing up here, you can see that we don't have like a nice vacuum pull on it. So essentially our vacuum bagging process was a failure, but it did work for a part of the time. It definitely held pressure, Kyle said, for the first few hours, and then it kind of let loose. So it is what it is. But now is the fun part. We get to pop this thing off and see what we've created. Well guys, we got really close on this one, but we still came up a little bit short. Here's what happened. In the voids where we had these tight bends, we had voids where they're just, like this stuff doesn't matter, that's all the throwaway edge, but this stuff like right here, that's not okay. Right here, it's not okay. Small things like that and like that. And then you can see like on this entire railing, this would have been the top railing of our piece. We didn't get the carbon fiber down to the resin, and we didn't get the resin all the way in the crack. And that was the whole purpose of the vacuum bagging. You know, it's supposed to suck everything down into your mold and kind of hold everything down into those tight creases. I wanted to work on the door because I thought it was actually going to be an easy part to start on, but then in retrospect, when you think about the amount of tight bends that it actually has, the whole outside of this thing is a really tight bend. So it's actually a really not easy piece to start working on, but you know. So our mold is still in great condition. We can keep using that, but this piece is not good. And we learned our lesson on our vacuum bagging. Rather than having a flange, what we need to do is just put a bag around the entire thing. We need to get the right type of bagging material, and then we'll go ahead and put a bag around the entire thing. That way we can have lots of nice like slack in the bag and everything, and get 100% vacuum seal on that thing. So yeah, the outcome of this is, it's unfortunate because we use 4 pieces of carbon fiber. It's a very, very expensive mistake, but this is learning. This is what it takes to learn how to do these things. You're gonna go through material, you're gonna go through things. Also, our surface isn't great. That problem that we had with it looking like hydrophobic seems to have created a lot of little voids in our surface on the carbon, which is not good either. That's also not acceptable. So we had 2 kind of big mistakes. I'm gonna have to look into how we can figure that part out with the hydrophobic, the resin going on there. I have a feeling it's the timing with the PVA. That'd be my guess. And then the other stuff I think is the vacuum. So I think we're really close. 2 small changes and we should be there. But yeah, another bummer one. But this is a good one to keep practicing on as well. So since Kyle doesn't have a lot of experience cutting the fiberglass with the cutoff wheel, I'm gonna have him go ahead and cut this part out, and then we'll walk it over to the car and just see how it would have looked. We'll clean it up a little bit, get the PVA off of it, because it's not shiny because it's got that coat of PVA on it. We'll get that off of it, and then and walk it over to the car, see how it would look. Did a great job trimming the panel. It's unfortunate that our edges just look rough as hell because we didn't get the resin all the way in, but where it did get all the way in, you know, like pieces like this, it's starting to, you can kind of see how we have small parts of success. But it's pretty cool to look at, just like kind of looking at it like this. It's definitely inspiring me to keep going forward and keep working on it. You know how these things are. I mean, we work, we mess things up, we learn from our mistakes, and we keep going. All right, guys, well, that is a wrap. Another carbon fiber attempt, another different method, but I think we are getting a lot closer to success. We just got to fix a couple things, but we are working very closely with fiberglass, and I am very confident that we're going to be able to fix this. Yes, we're getting pretty close to only having about 90 days or so to getting an entire Huracan assembled, but I have a trick up my sleeve. I have a giant box in the mail on its way to my house that may change the game a little bit. We'll see. I don't really know what I bought, but it costs a lot of money, as with everything with this car. So that's the deal, guys. We're working hard, we're learning, we're gonna keep working, we're gonna keep learning. This is BS for Build, this is what we do. It's just, it happens to be a lot more expensive this go around, but that is the world of carbon fiber. Huge thanks to Turo, guys, for sponsoring this episode. Remember, the link is in the description, guys. I urge you, go check it out. And of course, first time sign up, use my code in the description below and you'll get a $25 discount. Guys, go check it out. It's really cool. And other than that, if you wanna support the show, you know, cop some merch, bsforbuild.com. Thanks, guys. I'll see you guys very soon. Oh, we got some cool stuff coming up in the next episode. I hope you guys enjoy it. We're talking all about the design. Kaisel Salim has finished the design of this car. We now know what we're gonna build. And I can't wait to show it to you guys. And that'll be hopefully the next episode. I don't know what I'm doing anymore, guys. We're off the rails. I'll see you soon. Peace!